Give me vision to see things like you do. God, I look to you. You're where my help comes from. Give me wisdom. You know just what to do. I love you, Lord, my strength. I love you, Lord, my shield. And I love you, Lord, my rock. Forever all my days, hallelujah to God. We trust you in every season. Your name we trust you, God. Come on, let's sing this together. Sing hallelujah. working. You never stop, you never stop. Let's it out. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop, you never stop working. You never stop, you never stop working. Praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah. Death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There is salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living That's right. Jesus Christ is our living hope. We cannot hope in anybody. We cannot hope in people. We cannot put our hope and trust in riches. We can only put our hope in the one who sits on the throne, and that is Jesus Christ. Welcome, everyone, to Birmingham Bible Church's Winning Wednesday. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, whatever time zone you are watching us in. Thank you for joining us here on today. You could have been doing anything. You could have been just eating on your lunch break or doing whatever, but you're here with us. You may be watching the rebroadcast, and thank you for doing that as well, because we are just so grateful that you have decided to be here with us on today. We don't count it we just don't just make it a point just to say thank you, because you could be doing anything, you can be anywhere, and so we are so grateful for that. We hope you are having a great day. If you are new to our broadcast, this is a day that Birmingham Bible Church has declared Winning Wednesday. And it is just to remind you that you are a winner. And of course, that you have victory in every area of your life. So we like to remind people of that, because we all need a reminder that we are winners, because sometimes life just, things happen and we feel a little defeated. But this is the day that you, of course, are a winner. And so on this day, we want to bring you topics to help you be victorious in every area of your life. And so we need you to do us a favor. Please make sure you are sharing this broadcast. Make sure you are tagging someone. Make sure you are texting someone. We like to say tag, text, and share. Make sure you tag, text, and share, because this topic is for everyone. And you may be saying, well, it's not me today. Well, it could be you tomorrow. So it's better that you have the tools right now for what you may need for later. And so this is just what we like to do, just so that all of us can be prosperous and so that all of us can be winners. So I don't know if you all have looked at the news, even if you've listened to it throughout this whole entire year, just, even last year, it's just been a lot of natural disasters, a lot of catastrophic events, floods, tornadoes, you name it, hurricanes. There's always something going on in nature. And I know a lot of us can attribute to climate change, not getting into all of that. But it kind of leads me to a question I've been thinking about, and maybe you've been thinking about it. But are we prepared? I was talking to, I guess, earlier, and like, if a flood happened, what are we going to do? And we know that God is in control and God will take care of us. And there's nothing wrong in being prepared. And so that's what I guess is going to do on today. She's going to help us dig a little deeper. She's going to help us get on the right track and help us to be more prepared just in case tragedy strikes our home. And she's been with us before. She's just so talented and multifaceted. I can ask her a question and like, oh yeah, I know about that. She's done the homeschooling with us. She's talked about life insurance. She is an agent and she's very experienced in that area. And so I bring forth to you on today, Nikki Ivory. Hello, Nikki.
Hi, how are you doing? Thank you so much for having me back. I love talking to you and your audience.
Oh, and we love having you. We really do. I mean, just so the information you give is just so in depth, So, I want our audience to make sure they have pen and paper, make sure you're writing the stuff down. Of course, the video is going to be up there forever, but it just helps just to make sure you have a pen and paper in hand and to make sure that we're writing stuff down. So I'm ready to go. You can share your PowerPoint in any given moment. But I know you're going to introduce yourself, so you can, start by doing that.
All right, let me pull that up here. And again, thank you so much. And I have to say, I love how you mentioned about us being a victorious people. I thought that was awesome because Nicole actually means victory of the people. so,
I didn't know
so that's
that.
my motto. I love being victorious. I feel like we all should aim for that. And I feel like God has already told us that we're victorious people. So we should just walk in that every day. But thanks again for allowing me to speak to your audience. September is National Preparedness Month. A lot of people know it for life insurance awareness, but it is actually also National Preparedness Month. And as God's children, we want to make sure we're proactive and not reactive when it comes to preparing for natural disasters. So, a little bit about me, other than my name meaning victory of the people. um, so just like she mentioned, I absolutely love the insurance industry. I like to tell people I'm everything insurance. I am the CEO of AIMutual, an insurance brokerage firm that specializes in business and personal insurance products. I am also a licensed adjuster in many states in the US and some provinces in Canada. So I put both of those, Canada and the US here. And then I have also worked as a catastrophic adjuster for major hurricanes and hailstorms. This experience has provided me with insight on how to best protect your family and assets during a storm. So I'm definitely going to talk about that today. So what is a natural disaster? A natural disaster is a natural event such as a flood, earthquake, or hurricane that causes great damage or loss of life. In the first half of 2022, natural disasters caused overall losses of 65 billion, yes, dollars, with slightly more than half of these people insured. Wow, so that means slightly half. That's 50%. So I mean, a little bit over 50% of these losses were insured. That's a lot of people that had losses that were not insured. So that's really scary. Extreme multi-day rainfall and severe flooding in Australia constituted the main loss burden for the insurance industry of at least $3.7 billion of that total that I just gave you. US, once again, is the country that has the highest weather-related losses with around $28 billion, okay? So when they add up all the countries, we're going to be the country that still has the highest weather-related losses. So I'm kind of like, how are we living over here, right? Are we living bad or what's going on in America? I'm trying to figure out why do we have so many natural disasters? I really hope that number does subside. But again, these figures are just from the first, 6 months of this year. We have many more months to go. I guess we have, this is hurricane season right now. So this number is just going to increase. So the natural disasters that we have experienced this year thus far include, let's talk about the United States. Just recently, like 2 weeks ago, Mississippi, they just experienced flooding from the Pearl River, which led to now a water crisis. They still don't have any drinkable water. I don't know if you've seen the pictures on Facebook or on TV. That water is like very dark brown. I mean, they're saying to boil dark brown water. I don't think so. In Texas, and I'm in Texas, we had extremely high temperatures this summer and water droughts. And this forced many of our ranchers to sell their livestock. Again, there's so much footage out there that shows miles and miles of trucks with ranchers with their cattle, selling it, because they just don't have the food to be able to keep them. Water restrictions, even to this day, are still in place here in Texas. Western states, wow, I guess we're doing better than the Western states because we have a water restriction due to no rain. Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, Wyoming, California, Nevada, and Arizona, and that'll be the southern parts, southern kind of eastern parts of California, are facing drastic restrictions of utilizing the Colorado River, which farmers use for irrigation and agricultural purposes. So that's kind of scary. These, farmers for, decades, right, have been using this river. Now, all of a sudden, they're like cut off from it, or in some cases, even restricted, right? The people up north are restricted, but the people down south are just cut off, So that's not good. What are they going to do? And let's take it overseas. Pakistan, again, just last week, 1/3 of the country is now under water, like literally underwater, due to a recent monsoon. 1,100 people have died, with 400 of those being children. That's just so sad to me. And millions have been displaced. Severe flooding in Australia. We have extreme heat droughts and wildfires in Europe. So, one thing for sure, it's not a question on if a natural disaster will happen, but a matter of when. These are the times that we are living in. So, let's go ahead and go to our predictions. Let me go to the next slide there. They're showing a video here of the USA. Okay, so our winter predictions. So I don't know about you, but I love referencing the almanac. The almanac is over 200 years old, and it releases extended weather forecasts for people to plan ahead. And I can tell you, it's usually right. I don't know how they do it, but it's usually right. When you go to this website, there's lots of great tools on the site, including weather updates, gardening tips, moon cycles, healthy food recipes, and activities for your kids. And that website is just almanac.com. So let's talk about these winter predictions. So let's look at this map. The US map shows that the weather this winter will be split into two. Winter temperatures will be colder than normal across most of the country between the East Coast and the Rockies. Snowfall will be greater than normal from central New England through northern North Carolina, from the lower Great Lakes and the Ohio and Tennessee valleys into the southern plains, from the northern plains into the eastern Washington and across higher terrain of the southern Rockies and California. Now, freezing temperatures will also bring above average snow totals to most areas in the eastern US that typically experience snowfall. So again, just kind of look at the map. Last year Texas was all over the news for having power outages. So once again, this upcoming winter, it is going to be chilly. So I pray that everybody's getting prepared for that. And then, of course, just look right above it. They're talking about hibernation zone. You're not going anywhere. That snow is going to be so high, right? And then, of course, over there by, Illinois, unreasonably cold, very snowy. So get prepared to shovel. If you don't do that, find some contractors, have, that list on hand so you can call these people to help you out. And then, of course, down south, they're just not going to be all glitz and glam. I know how the snow bunnies, they try to go down south to get away from everything, but it's still going to be a little cold, wet, and slushy. So how to prepare for a disaster? The first thing you must have is a strong mindset. Okay. With the will to survive, without the will to survive, you are doomed. You can have all the tools, food, evacuation plans, etc. to survive, but if you lack the will to survive, you won't make it. Prepare yourself mentally to know that you can be in a disaster situation like you see on TV. I think sometimes people see tragedies on TV and think it can't and won't happen to them. So they treat it as a movie scene for entertainment or fictional purposes. Realizing that tragedy can strike even your home now puts you in survival mindset and helps you better prepare. And don't forget, being prepared is wise. The Bible talks about those that are wise and those that are fools. So we don't want to be in the foolish category. We want to be in the category of the wise. Now let's start talking about famine because it is coming. It is coming, okay? Take charge of your food supply is a must. This was done in Genesis chapter 41, verse 54, which reads, "And the 7 years of famine began, just as Joseph has said. There was famine in all the other lands, but in the whole land of Egypt, there was food." Can you believe that? It's just kind of like, America has food, right? Because we all prepared, but all the other countries globally around us did not have food. So I really want us to each read that on our own times, meditate on that, figure out how your family on your street, your family in your community, your family in your state, your family in your country can have food, even if people around you do not have food. Okay. Because if you don't have food, yes, you can go 40 days without food. That has been proven. All right. Now, on day 41 and later, which is very interesting that this syncs with the Bible, it is known, health wise, that your body will start to actually have the reverse effect. Instead of doing well, it starts to do negative on day 41 and later. Okay. So yes, with 40 days, you can survive without food, but how do you know you can, right? Have you gone 1 day fasting? Have you tried three? I really think we should start to work up and test this because what if that happens? I know myself, I'm good with just 1 meal a day. Even my daughter, we have tested this to make sure we can eat 1 meal a day. And it's gotten to the point where now really we're good with 1 meal a day. You're not saying we can't have two or three, but really, how much food do you really need? If you're eating the correct food, you're eating healthy food that's going to give your body the necessary nutrition that it needs, you're good. And so I talk to her all the time. Any event, something ever comes up to where we have to, where it's a requirement to eat 1 meal a day, we can do that. So at least start with that and then see if you can go 1 day without eating, 2 days without eating, 3 days without eating, because we can go up to 40 days. All right. But God has given us all the signs of an upcoming famine. We have seen how inflation is destroying the power of the dollar. Rising food costs continue to happen each month, droughts causing crops to die and cattle to be slaughtered, over 200 factories set on fire. So we must act now. If you don't have farmland, it's okay. Everybody thinks they have to have a farm in order to start gardening. You don't. You can purchase some seeds and start planting. I know a lead farmer, he always says just get a seed and put it in some dirt. Doesn't matter, right? If it's on the ledge of your apartment complex, he doesn't care. He says just in order to start farming, just get a seed and put it in some dirt. So even if you live in an apartment in a city, you too can become an urban farmer. And now I'm in insurance, right? So I know this, that now they're starting to offer insurance. You can even cover your crops that are on your ledge of your apartment. Okay. Start cooking. Purchase beans and rice at the grocery store. Don't be too proud to eat rice and beans daily if the need arises. This is funny because when I was in Costa Rica, beans and rice were considered a staple food. So I literally made like 30 dishes from beans and rice. So if you ever need any advice on what kind of dishes you can make with beans and rice, just email me. I'm happy to show you pictures and give you instructions. And one thing that was pretty interesting too about Costa Rica versus America, since that is their staple food, if you went to any of their McDonald's, for their desayuno menu, they actually had rice and beans, with their eggs and things like that. I thought that was pretty cool, and it was very tasty too. So there's a lot you can do for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with rice and beans. Teach your kids now to not turn their noses up on all of this if it must be eaten daily. I know this is 2022. I know everybody has access to Uber, Uber Eats and everything like that, and they can just get food at their fingertips. However, if that is not available, I want to make sure that they're not turning their nose up on food that is going to keep them alive. But one thing I do want to say, you still want to make sure you're still eating healthy, even in a time of crisis. So, for instance, if you purchase canned goods, which we should do that now, check the sodium on the cans. All right. You don't want to, die from high cholesterol, just because you're eating out of cans. All right. Another thing, again, start canning. Now, canning is simply a matter of immersing. Excuse me. Let me go back to that. Canning is simply a matter of immersing hot jars into boiling water long enough to suck out all the air, thereby sealing the jars. Unopened home canned foods have a shelf life of 1 year and should be used before 2 years for sure. Commercially canned foods should retain their best quality until the expiration code dated on the can. This date is usually 2 to 5 years from the manufacture date. Start a community garden. This is a very great option to partner with your neighbors, family, friends, church members. Work as a team to ensure your community has the food it needs during the famine. This is also a great way to bond with others and grow food. Check with your city, but some lots that are zoned for residential homes are also zoned for community gardens. I found that out in my county, so it may also apply to your county. Flooding. So this is what we're talking about earlier. Sister Lady Pam said, what would you do if a flood happened? Damage caused by flooding is not covered by your standard homeowner's policy. Insurers are always in for a shock when they speak to their adjuster and find this out. The only thing an adjuster can do at that point is to provide you with a denial letter and allow you to present that letter to FEMA during a declared catastrophic event so that you can apply for assistance if you don't have flood insurance. So what should you do? You should get flood insurance. Especially if you're in a low-lying area or flood zone, and visit FEMA.gov portal to see and check your address to see if you're in a flood zone. Okay. But you can still purchase it even if you're not in a flood zone. All right. You can also purchase from private flood insurance carriers or NFIP, which is National Flood Insurance Program. Energy. Again, we've heard so many things about the energy crisis. I really thought the grid was going to go down nationally this summer. They just kept, scaring us out that, right? Now, again, I do work with a lot of Canadians, and their grid did go down 3 times this year. The last time it went down, which I think was in like July, that was the worst. It was like down for about 3 to 4 days. And people didn't have access to anything, not even their emergency services. So like here, how we call 911, and I'm not really sure what the number is there, but it didn't work. They couldn't call anyone, so that's not good. They didn't have access to their bank account, anything. So just make sure you're keeping cash on you just in the event everything goes down and you can't use your credit card, you can't get access to any ATMs. All right, so just letting you know that. And of course, again, like I said earlier, Texans learned the hard way last winter. They didn't have access to electricity for several days. Some residents even died because it was so cold. So everyone now needs to be prepared in the event this happens again, because what happened? People down here were fussing and calling their Congress people, but guess what? Nothing's happened. Nothing has happened. Nothing has changed to guarantee that our grid will not go down again in winter. So tips for winter: purchase a generator. Ensure you have batteries, portable chargers, flashlights for every member in the home, heavy duty blankets. Here's a really great tip for you. Purchase a tent. Yes, a tent. I'm not telling you to go outside and go camping. What you would do is, let's just say you have 4 members in your household. You all would select the room in the house that is most insulated. And if you haven't done this yet, start to go put tape around all of your windows to insulate your home. Okay. But the room that's the most insulated, you would set up the tent. In that tent, you would have your sleeping bags, your heavy duty blankets, and all four of those people would sleep in that particular tent in that insulated room. That's how you keep the body temperatures from everyone. And that tent and that insulated room will help you stay warm. Okay. So reporting property and auto claims. And I'm just going to give you a list of tips. The first thing is to take photos of your property and contents now before a storm. Sometimes people want to wait till after the storm to take photos. Well, a lot of stuff could be ruined. If it was during a windstorm, things may not even be on your property anymore. So it could be on someone else's property, it could be missing. And sometimes it's very hard to figure out what you have when you're stressed and everything, right? So it's just hard to remember all your contents. So what I tell people is to definitely make sure that you take before pictures of the interior and exterior of your home. Keep physical and digital records of your photos, purchase receipts. For example, if you shop, on Amazon a lot or IKEA or Home Depot, they usually email you a receipt. So you at least have it first in a digital format, then print those. Okay. So keep physical and digital copies of all this stuff. Contractor invoices. That's very important. Any type of renovations and repairs to your home. That's really good. Sometimes people just feel like, oh, I can just call my contractor, they'll have a copy of it. Well, in most scenarios, that would be true. But if it's during a time like this, they're probably really busy, working on people's homes. Also, you just don't want to rely on someone else's organization system to have that information for you, especially when your adjuster is trying to get money to you so that way you can get these repairs. You don't really want to have to wait on someone's assistant or uh, you know, a builder, a contractor to get this to you because it could be delayed if they're so busy. Okay, so it's just great to have a copy on your own. Speaking of contractors, though, get a list of contractors. Get a list of together of contractors that you trust or that come highly recommended to you from a friend. What I see, or what I've seen during catastrophic events, is that that list will get exhausted very quickly. For instance, during Hurricane Harvey, there's only so many contractors out there that can do the job. So everyone is calling the same contractors. They usually go with the people who, they can get paid, the most with. It just is what it is, right? So if your job is a little bit smaller, well, they're probably going to overlook you for a larger job. So then you have to keep going down that list to find someone that you know. Another thing is, if these people already have relationships with someone, they may go because they have to decide if they have 50 people calling them and they only have enough on their schedule for 10 jobs. Decisions have to be made. So if you already have relationships with someone, then that could really rank you up higher on the list of possibly getting your job taken care of. Okay, so it's great to form those relationships. It's great to have a list together. So start asking your neighbors. If you've never had to go through anything like this, that's a blessing. But start to go on Angie's list. Start to talk to your neighbors, even people from your church. Figure out like who are the best people to contact, for plumbing, for roofing, for electrical work. You want to have that already. So another thing is use construction businesses that have proven they are reliable and provide great work, because there's going to be a lot of shady characters that come knocking on your door during those times because they know people are desperate to get that hole fixed on their roof. And they'll come and say, hey, you have to pay a deposit and all this stuff like this. You don't have to do that. Okay. During a cat claim, always get 3 quotes. I know sometimes it's very hard to do because you're just wanting to get everything fixed, but it is in your best interest, if you can, to get 3 quotes. What does this help you do? First of all, you're already going to receive an estimate from your field adjuster when they come out to inspect your home. Do not show these 3 contractors that estimate from the field adjuster, because normally what they're going to do is, if the field adjuster says $30,000 and really on theirs it may have been 20. They're just going to adjust it up to 30,000, right? You don't want them to do that. So the whole thing is you will also want to see if they know what they're doing. The field adjuster has already outlined, on the roof, this is what you need. The interior, this is what you need. Da da da, this is what you need. So you want to see when they come do the inspection, do they have everything that the field adjuster has? It's okay if it's a little bit off. I mean, they're because these are people, right? No one's perfect. But if the field adjuster is saying $30,000 work and they're saying $5,000 work, that means you do not want to go with that contractor because they don't know what they're talking about. But if you have other contractors that are like 28,000 or even 33,000, okay, well then they're kind of about the same, like that field adjuster. So those are probably more reputable. They know what they're doing. Another thing uh, is to try to use companies that are local during catastrophic events. Companies from out of town, especially from up north, will come down to Texas, Florida, the coastal states to do the work. And that's fine. I'm not mad at them from a business standpoint. If it's slow up there because it really hasn't hit wintertime yet, you want to come down here to help people who may have been affected by water related or wind related storms. That's fine. But the problem is they don't really know the local area, especially if they're like mom and pops up north, and they don't have businesses that are regional. So it's kind of hard for them to source the material and have access to the same pricing like local companies do. So their pricing is probably going to be a little bit higher. They're also going to inflate it because they're having to provide housing, for their workers if they're sending them down here, gas, everything else, right? Versus what a local person can do. So just kind of letting you know. Then also too, they don't really have a passion to restore your neighborhood back to its original glory. I mean, they're just coming down here to do the work. But if people who are local, they want to make sure that community looks great because they live in that community. Again, never give a down payment to a contractor to start work. I'm just stressing this again because I've seen it time and time again. People are so desperate to get the work done on their home. So someone will say, "Well, I need 5,000, to get started, and if their check that they're getting from the insurance company is 12,000, then they only have $7,000 left. And most times again, there's a lot of shady characters. If they're asking for that, they're shady. And if they're getting that, they're going to bounce. And then these poor insurers will be calling, asking for another $5,000 check. And guess what? Your insurance company is going to say, no, reject it, decline. It's not happening. You're going to have to make it work on 7,000. And that 5,000 now is going to have to come out of your pocket. You're going to have to figure out what to do. Okay. So just puts, the homeowner in a bad situation. So recommended podcast apps and websites. Let's see. I don't have a lot of time, to cover everything, but please join my Coverage Over Coffee podcast each Friday on YouTube and Facebook. I take deep dives into understanding your property and auto insurance policies, also how to work with your adjuster to receive best results, and how to get life insurance coverage and more. So, uh, again, you can go to facebook.com/AIMutual. Also, we're on YouTube, again, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. Let me go back to because I want to tell you about some other wonderful podcasts too. So, survival podcast. This is really great. I'm listing this because they have at least about maybe 20 to 25 on the list of podcasts because I can't list them all. But just go to survivalfist.com and it will show you the best prepper podcasts. I keep talking about Led Farmer. He's amazing. Actually, my mom introduced me to him, and even one of my clients, my life insurance clients, was informing me about him back in 2020. I love his personality. He's very laid back, very personable. And I love how he is just very thorough. He answers in real time. He'll go live. If you have questions, he'll answer you on the live. So he's really good. Also, DIY Prepper TV. They're really good too. I love them because they do step by step. This is not what I do. My mom, she is just a natural when it comes to fixing things or planning things. Like that's just not my thing. So what I really like about DIY Prepper is that they go step by step because people like me need that, right? And then, of course, they have the urban prepper. So, like I was telling you about urban gardens, and that's becoming a huge deal now. There's actually a lot of grants out there now that you can get too, not only for starting a community garden, but also having an urban garden. So the urban prepper are for all my city folks, okay? So if you don't want to have to move to the farm or you just can't do that, that's okay. Urban prepper will show you how to make sure you have food during these times, even if you live in a city. So, some weather websites, some other great websites that you want to go to is FEMA.gov. That shows you, that gives you information about disaster and assistance, floods, and map. Again, when it's a hurricane, and the opening that happened that allowed your place to get flooded, if that wasn't created by wind, um, you know, 9 times out of 10 is going to be due to flooding with rising water. And so you're going to have to go to FEMA to see if you can get some assistance. So just kind of get acquainted with their website now. All right. In the event you need that. And again, go back to their website to check your address to see if it's in a flood zone. Ready.gov, which I have here, it's really awesome. They have so much information about how to get ready for emergencies. So they have videos on making a plan, protecting your family and property. They have an emergency supply list. They have just a lot of great materials. So definitely check that out. Print what you need, save, download what you need, and share with your family and friends so they too can get prepared. Again, on ready.gov kit, you can create an emergency kit or bug out bag information. This is really good. Bug out bags. What is that, Nicole? A bug out bag is something that is kind of like a backpack. Have you ever seen those backpackers, right? Well, backpackers, yeah, they may be a little bit more fun because they're just traveling. They're choosing to travel, so they have a backpack. But really, what it is, a bug out bag is in the event something happened is very drastic in your area, and you're required to evacuate, and you can't come back home. What are you going to do if they tell you to leave? Now you're on foot. So it's good to have a bug out bag for everyone in your family. Everyone should have their own bug out bag. And so they show you on here what you should put in those bug out bags. And then again, in your car, everyone should have an emergency kit. They talk about that too, a supply kit in their car in case you are driving, an emergency happens and you can't get home again, or if you're at home and you have to evacuate in your car, you want to make sure that you have both the bug out bag and the emergency kit in your car completed. And you may have to change that throughout the seasons. Like it depends. Some areas only get 2 seasons, some areas get 4 seasons. So you want to keep it updated because if it's during winter time, you want to make sure if you're stuck in your car that you can keep warm. But if it's in the summertime, you want to make sure you have items that can keep you cool. So you just want to make sure that you adjust it seasonally. NOAA.gov weather. I use this a lot during this time, especially for hurricanes. And it's pretty amazing because when you go to their site, even if you just type in on Google NOAA hurricane, and it'll take you right to the hurricane site so you can see everything that's happening, either tropical depressions, tropical storms, actual hurricanes on both the Atlantic, um, Central Pacific, or Eastern Pacific regions. So right now we have some storms brewing, but the good thing is they're not really hitting land. It's a different kind of year this year, which is a blessing. So far, everything's going great. We've already had 2 hurricanes, but they're just kind of out there towards the east, so they're not really hitting any land. But one thing I love about going to this website is that if you click on the circle where the hurricane or tropical storm is, it'll give you all this detailed information about the direction it's traveling, the likelihood and percentage of it growing into something bigger in the next 48 hours or 5 days, so that way you have time to prepare, especially if you're on a coast. You have time to prepare to evacuate your family if you need to. Okay. All right. And this was just like very high overview, but definitely it was a pleasure speaking to you today and just to give you some information on how to best be prepared. But visit those websites because I could talk about this forever. There's just so much rich information to give you. But I do provide additional information on my Facebook page and YouTube. So definitely check me out there. Again, that's going to be facebook.com/AIMutual. we have coverage over coffee tomorrow. Today, I know I was actually doing some pre-taping. It was a lot of fun. Great coffee places too. I go to different coffee shops, so I highlight them, and then of course I talk about insurance topics that's unique to some of my clients who've asked me for to expand on certain things, and then also just some people just want to know about their property policies, auto policies. So if you have any topics you'd like for me to talk about, that's totally fine. Just hit me up and I can include that in one of our lives. But it's been a pleasure talking to you today.
We have enjoyed you, Nikki, on today. Great, great information. I am not surprised or shocked. A lot of great tips. Just never thought about, having a backpack, the warm blankets. The news stations, they do a great job about, flashlights, batteries, cell phone charge, and all that stuff. Great information. Even make sure your pets are covered. I love that. I mean, because we're kind of thinking about us at this moment, but we got to make sure they have what they need too. um Good. The website's awesome. That's great as well. Let me ask you,
Sure.
so should I know you mentioned taking pictures of items that you own. Should we keep them on a cell phone? Is there another place? I know some of us, at least most of us are iPhone users, but you have some people, I ain't gonna call them out, who haven't come over to the iPhone side.
Okay, it's okay.
And that's okay. But where should we keep those particular photos?
So basically, even if you do take pictures on your phone, because that's just the quickest way now, right? Everything's on our
Right.
phone, right?
Yeah,
You can take those photos on your phone, and usually you can back that up to your Google Photos.
that's right.
So if you do that, that's great, or even your Google Drive, that's great too.
Right.
And the reason why I like that is because let's just say you had to evacuate, and maybe you had to pull up your Google Drive from at a local library. Well, at least it's all there. Or if you're staying at a friend or family's house and you're using their laptop or whatever, then you can just log in as you with your Gmail account, pull up all of your information.
Yeah.
Now you can send that to your adjuster very quickly. You don't have to
Yeah.
wait until you get have access, because sometimes during a hurricane, depending how bad it is, you cannot get back to your home in time. They will say, no, it's off limits. You're not allowed to.
Mhm,
They may even
yeah.
have it guarded, by reserves or whomever. You can just go in and pull up all of your information.
Say again, Nikki.
To your adjuster pretty quickly.
Okay, good. I think you cut out just a little bit. Say that last part again about not being able to get back to your home and they won't let you get back in. And say that
Yes.
again. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes that happens, right? Where you want to come back to your house to assess the damage, because everybody would love to go back the next day. But sometimes you just can't if the water is still high or
Right.
if it's still dangerous. So with that being said, you might not be able to come back to assess everything as quickly as you want. But sometimes, in
Mhm.
some cases, maybe if other neighbors get back before you, people have great relationships. They'll tell their neighbor, oh, hey, I saw this, your house got hit with a tree, or this was damaged, or that was damaged. You know what I mean? So if that's the case, then you kind of already know in the back of your mind that I need to make sure that I get this information to my adjuster, right? If
Yeah.
you knew that you had outdoor contents that were damaged, well, then at least you know that, hey, at least I can show him or her these photos of this is what I had in my backyard,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
you can already start to get the process going, because you want to make sure you have everything as quickly as possible, as accurate as possible, given to your
Hmm.
adjuster during those times. Because especially during a cat event, this is versus daily. A daily event would just be like a lightning strike or something like that. But I'm talking about a
Right.
catastrophic event that's
Right.
affecting hundreds of thousands of people. These adjusters are very busy. So once you talk to them, you need to give them as much information as possible to move you closer to getting your check. If
Yeah.
not, it may take a minute for them to even get back to your claim. So if every time you're talking to them, it's just about getting information, that's really slowing it down. It's not getting you and your family back into your home. It could
Right.
very well. Another thing I wanted to say too, since we're kind of talking about this, it's just
Yeah.
a really great thing to do. But have purchasing ALE and adding that to your insurance, and basically it's kind of like living assistance. Okay, so in the event that something does happen to your property and you have ALE as a part of your homeowner's insurance policy, now your insurance carrier can pay for your hotel stay, right? They can put you in an Airbnb, or some type of living facility. And it's up to a certain, depending how much you have, but at least you now have options. You don't have to stress about it. One thing that was really sad to me during Hurricane Katrina, and this is before, my life insurance days, but one thing that I did see is that there are a lot of people who, I mean, hurricanes happen all the time. Usually people consider it a vacation and they leave for 3 days, right? And then
Mhm,
they come
mhm.
back. I mean, it's just what they do. But during Hurricane Katrina, there was no coming back. So they
Right.
had to exhaust or live off their credit cards. Well, most people were okay for a week or two. But
Right.
after 2 weeks, I start to see people very stressed.
Yeah.
Some people are on suicide watch. It was very crazy. So what I'm suggesting is to just check your policy, see if it has ALE. If not, ask to see how much it costs to add that, because that's definitely something you want that at least gives you options. Doesn't mean you have to use it. Another thing too is, what if you don't really have to evacuate to a hotel or stay there a long time? Maybe you just needed it, for 3 days and come back, everything was cool. Well, at least you
Okay.
can still get reimbursed back for those 3 days if you have
Yeah.
ALE.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you don't. You're out of pocket.
And you say it's ALE.
Yes.
Okay. So we can just call our insurance carrier to make sure that they provide that. But if not, then how can we purchase that in itself?
It has to be a part of your homeowner's
A part of
policy.
homeowners insurance. Okay, gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Now, and when you talked about the Google Drive, I didn't think about that because I have a Google Drive. So that'll be good to put your birth certificates in, pictures of those, your social
Mhm.
security cards. I know it's probably some place to want to see the original, but of course, a lot of people probably keep their birth certificates and social security cards in a file cabinet, which is good, but is it also good to keep those in the Google Drive, like you mentioned?
Please do that, because
Yeah.
again, you just want to make sure you have access to any information that you may need. I'm not really sure of all the information that FEMA may ask you, not sure what any local outreach, organizations would need from you in order to help you, but you just want to
Right.
make sure you have access to that information to provide it to whomever in the event they need it as quickly as you can. Plus, it's just smart to do. It's just smart to do that, especially with people. I learned so much with Hurricane Katrina. Even photos, that you don't want to lose, have those
Yeah.
scanned. Take photos of that, because that was the number one complaint of what everyone said. They didn't care about the big TVs, because we had big TVs, the tube TVs then, right? We didn't have flat screens
Right.
during Hurricane Katrina, but they didn't care about that. It was about the memories. It was about the photos that they lost.
Right.
So if you have anything like that, it may take a minute, but take the time to scan them. Take the time to get
Yeah.
those uploaded, so that way you won't lose those. And
Yeah.
then again, the important documents, like you mentioned, the birth certificate, social security cards, you know, wedding certificates, whatever you need, any
Right.
documents, make sure that those are scanned as well. And again, like if you're in it, because again, hurricane people from Hurricane Katrina, they didn't know where they were going to be sent
Mhm,
to. Some people came to Texas, some
mhm.
people went to Georgia. So you don't know where you're going to go. But the good thing about Google Drive is it doesn't matter where you go anywhere in the world. As long as you have access to your login information, that's another thing. Log in, scan it. I know some people
Yes.
may argue about that. And I keep hearing that True Sana is coming to where we won't even need passwords in a little bit. But as of today, we do need passwords. So make sure you
Mhm.
have access to all that, because even your phone can die or get swept away or whatever have you, so, or damaged, especially if it's an emergency situation, so you want to make sure you have it
Yeah.
online.
No, that's good because I just thought about this. I need to put all my passwords in Google Drive because the older you get, you're like, no, what is
Yes,
that
it's too much.
password?
And I'm always gonna forget password. Just let's just reset it again. I don't know.
That's
That
it.
is
That's
such a nightmare having to reset everything, all the time, right?
yeah, yeah. No, this was great. I think when of course when COVID first came, and I forgot there was some gentleman who was and you're talking about preparing, and I'm
Mhm.
thinking about water. So should we even start, not hoarding,
Mhm.
but should we start even, getting stuff for, just having things on hand like water, and how much is too much?
At this point, I don't even like the word hoarding, right?
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
reason why I say that is because from a biblical standpoint, just looking at the Joseph story, that
Yeah.
was 7 years.
That
So when
was
people were saying
important.
that people were hoarding back in 2020 tissue, no one and no one could tell you how long this was going to be. So how can you say that someone is hoarding something when
Right.
I in my mind I always think of the number 7,
Yeah.
and if that happened before, who says that can't happen again?
Right.
And I
Right.
know people want to be optimistic, but we also have to look at the worst case scenario. So don't
Right.
ask me, because if you ask me, I'm going to say 7 years. Right?
Okay.
But I mean, that is kind of a little crazy. But I guess, but most people, if you go on these prepper channels, they will say a year or two, and it's very easy to do, especially if you're doing a
Yeah.
canning where you're sucking all the air out, and that
Right.
step is good for 2 to 5 years. So you know that is easy to do. But even it's just there's no since we're not in control of this thing, we really can't give a concrete answer. But
Yeah.
I will say, at least, for 1 year would be smart, because what I think
Right.
would happen is that the government would step in to try to provide some services. So that way, at least you have the what you prepare, plus you can, be in the lines or receive what they have, to keep adding it to what you have. But you have
Mhm.
to also, in conjunction with the water, because listen, I mean, look at this. Mississippi just now. They were talking about a flooding, and then because of the flood, it contaminated their water source. So they
Yeah.
they don't even have water. People are like, how much water should they have? They ran out of even bottled water, and it was crazy. So, anyways,
Yeah.
I just say you want to make sure that you and your family have bottled water. Also, you want to make sure that you have a filter that you can hook up, in the event water is available, but you just want to make sure it's
You
clean,
just want to
right?
make
And it's
right.
not as worse as Mississippi. I'm not talking about water that's brown or black, but if it looks great, but you just want to make sure it's drinkable. I definitely say invest in some filters. That'll be a lot cheaper than
Mhm.
buying a lot of bottled water, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, but I would say to start now.
Yeah.
One tip is to, when you get all these bottled waters, or not even just bottled waters, but juice juice bottles or anything like that. Empty them out, wash them really great, fill
Mhm.
them up with the filtered water, fill them up with filtered water, and stock
Mhm.
them. Okay, so I'm
Mhm.
not telling you that you have to go to the store to buy all this bottled water. Use what you have and start stocking up, and just keep doing it time and time again. I think that would be really wise. And then another good thing to do too, that I'm actually still working on now, because you can say I do so many things, but I actually completed this 6-week cooperative training, because it was a group of farmers. I'm not a farmer, like I
Mhm.
said, that's not my thing, but I wanted to be exposed to people who that's what they do, that's what they're passionate about, because the goal again is to have your list ready. So let's just say, uh, you can't just easily go to the store to get food. I want to make sure that I have a list, in different states, because I know a lot of people in different states who may need food. So now I can refer them to farmers that I know and that I trust, so that way they can have that relationship to be able to get food. I just had another lady down here in Texas who's I saw her planning, on Labor Day weekend, and I just reached out to her and was like, "Hey, this is what I'm trying to do. Let me know if you have a program where people, because I've seen that, where people can, purchase fruits and vegetables, once a month, twice a month, either they'll have it delivered to you, you may have to pick it up." So she was like, most definitely. But you just want to make sure you have options, because even people who know how to plant, they can't plant everything, right? Some regions are better for different fruits and vegetables. Some people are just better at planting certain food. So it's still great. We're still going to have to work together at the end of the day to be able to get what we need. So there may be some cattle ranchers out there who can provide meat or who have beef cows and milk cows, right? And so they can switch that out with people who have fruits and vegetables. We just still need everyone. There are people out there as well who can create soap, who can make those things that you need that we don't really think about, but we need to make sure we have great hygiene when all of this goes down. That's what keeps us
Right.
healthy. So
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
not the food and water. We have to make sure we still keep our areas clean, our environments clean.
Yeah.
We want to keep because that keeps our mental health clean, right? If you're in a dirty environment, and I said that mindset, everything is about the mind, and what's around you affects you mentally. So we want to still make sure we have that hand sanitizer. We have
Mhm.
the Clorox and everything to keep everything. So these are things too you need to add to the list, and it's going to be on those, the emergency list that I was
Yeah.
telling you about,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But again, just start to get those things. Also, go to those prepper sites. They show you how to make things from scratch. Okay. So if you're like, because everything's pretty expensive now. So you don't like, oh my God, I don't want to have to buy all of this. Okay. They show you how to use what you have to make these things as well.
Good. Well,
Hmm.
thank you so much, Nikki. Listen, guys, y'all, her information has been on the screen for a few minutes. So hopefully you guys have taken a snapshot of it.
Yes.
And of course, you can contact Nikki directly and she can help you with all of your life insurance, all of your flood insurance, all whatever you need. Nikki can do it. We've actually reached out to her personally, and she will stay up to the wee hours of the morning. I've been
That's
looking at my
right.
phone like she's still texting me.
Yes.
But I appreciate that. I really do.
Mhm.
So what we'll do is we'll have just a few brief church announcements, and then Nikki just give us just a couple of closing remarks to help our viewers. We appreciate that. Don't forget, guys, our prayer room call is every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. That number is on your screen. It is 727-731-0433, but it's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 a.m. Don't forget our small groups. Of course, we are talking about life's healing choices. We are learning how to heal emotionally. To be a part of that private small group, please send us an email at smallgroups@bhambc.org. We meet every Saturday at 10 a.m. We also have various private small groups to address all of the needs of our singles, our married couples, our those who want to know about their finances, and those who want to learn how to study and teach the Bible. And so for our singles, our private Facebook page is send us an email at singles@bhambc.org. That way we can get you plugged in. We do monthly video uploads just once a month, so we're not overtaxing you. But great information. We actually are doing a curriculum from Tony Evans, Kingdom Single, so that's awesome. For our married couples, we also do monthly video uploads. If you are interested, send us an email at marriedcouples@bhambc.org. That is marriedcouples@bhambc.org. For our Timothy class people, if you want to learn how to study and teach the Bible, send us an email at timothyclass@bhambc.org. That's timothyclass@bhambc.org. And then for our financial people, if you want to learn how to invest, to budget, to save, all those great things, please send us an email at finance@bhambc.org. Please join us on Sunday. Of course, we are in person. We are having our Back to Church Sunday. Listen, make sure you bring somebody with you who is unchurched. We're having our in-person service at CW Hayes School. It's going to be at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. We're going to have a great time, so make sure you do that. Also, on that same day, we are going to be honoring a very sweet lady at our church, Kiki. She is is getting married in October. So we want to shower her with all kind of gift cards, love and affection, crock pots, toaster ovens, all those great things. But just make sure you shower her on that Sunday. And then, of course, Pastor is continuing the message, the sermon series on the Master's Class on Prayer. He is teaching us just as Jesus taught his disciples to pray. So great time we're having. Don't forget studying the scriptures. That's every Tuesday at 11 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time. Make sure also you come back next Wednesday. Next Wednesday, we have Dr. Larissa again, and she is going to talk about the disparities of chronic pain and also the more traditional interventions of how we can help stop the pain from our level. So make sure you join us next week for that as well. Also, a couple of things. Don't forget, Pastor Mason is on oneplace.com. If you want to listen, if you want to continue to grow in your faith and you want to do it on the go to oneplace.com. Do a search for his name, Dr. James H. Mason III, and you can see all of the messages that are archived. He is also on EFM radio. This broadcast every Sunday in the South African region. So we are happy about that. Over 185,000 people are able to listen to Pastor Mason every Sunday morning. Our time is from 10:30 to 11. So a great way that we are able to actually go into all the world and to teach the gospel. And so we want to make sure we are doing our part in that. Last thing, of course, don't forget we have a text messaging system. This is a great way to send you reminders of signing up for in-person service, or hey, we got this virtual event going on. We have this studying scripture that's about to broadcast live. So please make sure you are plugged in you to receive these text messages. Of course, to receive them, you're going to text BBCWW to this number, 94253. You're going to text BBCWW to 94253. Well, thank you so much, Nikki, for joining us here on today. If you can just give us a brief minute or two, just some takeaways of what you want to leave with our listeners on today.
Thank you. Everybody remembers what happened in 2020 with the toilet tissue
Mhm.
debacle. It was very sad. It was a lot of fights at the grocery store just to get that. Also recently with the baby food. There were a lot of mothers who could not feed their babies. That was very concerning. So just think about this for a moment. What would happen if there was no food? Okay. They're already talking about on CNN, Fox News, Bloomberg about at the end of this year, there will be civil unrest. They're already preparing for it. They're telling us it's coming. They're already telling us that the grids are going to go down. Okay. So what's going to happen? Can your family survive 1 week without food and emergency supplies, 4 weeks, 4 months? You have to start asking yourself these questions today. Get your emergency plan together today, this week. Let's not just wait till next week or 2 months and then just assume that everything's going to be great. We need to do it today. You have heard this vital information from BHAM Winning Wednesday for a reason. God is talking to you. He's telling you to prepare. Okay. Also, we just want to make sure everyone's being wise. They say faith without works is dead. It's great to have faith and thinking that God's going to take care of your family during a crisis, but he's giving you this information for you to do your part. You do your part, he does his part, and that's the winning equation. So I just want to end with a question. Your family is depending on you for their survival. My question is, can they count on you?
Wow. Thank you so much, Nikki. You said a mouthful there. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here on today. You've heard from Nicole Ivory. Reach out to her today to make sure that your family is prepared. And that's what we want to do. Make sure you guys are prepared. We want all of us to be prepared so that we continue to have life and to have it more abundantly. Listen, guys, we'll see you at something. We'll see you Saturday for small group. We'll see you next Sunday, next Tuesday, next Wednesday, whatever it is. We will see you guys soon. Take care. Love y'all. Thank you, Nicole.
All right. Thank you. You have a great one.
You too. Bye bye.